What's up, Jam Fam? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos. Today's video is one that I actually hadn't planned to do, but then I just started reminiscing and thinking about my dental days, and I started thinking about all of the crazy experiences that I had. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna tell you some of the weirdest, craziest, grossest experiences I've had in the dental industry, both from when I was qualified, when I was seeing my own patients, but also from when I was a dental assistant. So like 15 years of experience in this career. And obviously I'm not practicing right now. My degree, oral health therapy, does not translate to the United States. I don't think any degrees in the medical industry do, even for example, a doctor. I believe that you have to go back to university to be able to practice in a different country. Let's get started with the grossest thing I've ever seen while working. I hope you're all ready. If you guys don't like gross dental stories, if you don't like the dentist, if you don't like hearing about all of this type of thing, this is probably not the video for you. The grossest thing I've ever seen while working in the dental industry, surprisingly, was actually not teeth related. I was seeing a patient. He had a really big beard. I wear loupes when I'm working, focused on a point, but I could see things in my peripheral moving. Looked over. His beard was filled with bugs. With bugs. I have no idea. I have no idea. Next point. The grossest thing that's ever happened to me while seeing a patient. This, I can remember the exact moment this happened, but I was seeing a patient, he was an older gentleman, and we did a filling on one of his back teeth. I just finished the filling, and he's like, oh, I can feel something on the roof of my mouth. I think there's something stuck there. So I ran my finger like on the roof of his mouth, and as I was doing that, he literally shut his lips together and started sucking my finger, and I was like, no, like trying to pull it out, and he's like trying to suck it in. It was just very inappropriate, and I think that's where you need to draw a line and put your foot down, because otherwise people think they can get away with behaviors like that. What is the weirdest thing I've ever seen while working in dentistry? I had a patient who came in and they were complaining that their teeth felt really tight. It was an emergency call. It was over a weekend. I took the call and I was like, can you explain to me what you mean by your teeth feel tight? They just feel really tight. Went down, opened up the surgery, saw the patient, and straight away I knew what the problem was. And I was like, do you realize you have a lot of hair stuck between all of your molars? And they're like, oh yeah, I know. It's because I floss with my hair. And it was a lot, like there was a lot of hair, and it was just really, really interesting that someone had had that habit. So obviously you have to speak with the patient and say, this isn't really a safe practice, this is not going to do the role of flossing, which is, you know, to clean subgingivally beneath the gums. Speak with them about proper flossing and why you floss, and teach them to floss. So that was definitely like a really interesting experience that I had. Fun facts, I was bit more by adults than I was by kids. I think maybe like they're thinking about other stuff, or like they're distracted, or maybe a little bit more anxious because they don't enjoy the dental experience, so they're a little bit more tense. Back to the weird, gross things that I've experienced. Another crazy story is I had a patient call us on a weekend, and it was an emergency patient, and they were crying. I'm like, okay, what's wrong? How can we help you? They're like, oh, well, I got really drunk and I tried to take my own tooth out with a hammer and a chisel, and it broke halfway and the rest of it's there. And of course, when you break a tooth, you're exposing the nerve, which is where all of the pain is gonna come from. So they had to come in and obviously get that tooth extracted, but that was a crazy story. So please do not try to take out your own teeth. I know it might seem like a cheap, easy alternative sometimes, but it's just never a good thing. My biggest frustration, when I see a patient who, they're like, I haven't been to the dentist in 10 years. They're bragging about it. They're happy. You're making a treatment plan for them. I'm like, okay, you've got to get 10 fillings. This is what you need. And they're like, okay, but I want to get them whitened. Okay, but it's really important. We have a strong foundation to build on. You're not going to build a beautiful mansion on top of a lot of sand. Like, you need to have healthy dentition, good gums, and then we can talk about doing whitening. People always want what's aesthetic, what is pleasing to the eye, but of course it's actually really important to have a really good foundation. Another really crazy thing that I saw was I had a patient who was coming in. I was meant to do one of their fillings, and I went to numb them up, and of course before I numb them up, I'd always ask, do you have any allergies to anesthetics, or blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, don't worry about the anesthetic, and I was like, oh, okay, why? Like follow-up questions, making sure the patient's comfortable. And the patient's like, oh, I've already numbed myself up before I came. And straight away I was like, hold on. Take off my gloves, take off my mask, and I'm like, can you tell me more about this? What do you mean you've numbed yourself up? They're like, oh, I bought some anesthetic on eBay and then I Googled how to do it. Guys, please do not do this. Please never numb yourself up. It's not safe. The scariest thing that has ever happened to me was when I was seeing a patient with periodontal disease. So periodontal disease is gum disease, and they hadn't been to the dentist in like 15 years, right? So they had a huge amount of gum recession, bone recession. They had a huge amount of calculus, and I'll put a photo here so you can see like an example of what I'm talking about, not the exact patient. The risk of doing that is when you're removing this, it acts like a cement. And that tooth, if it doesn't have a supporting ligament holding it in, after you clean away that calculus, the tooth can actually fall out. So of course I see this patient, they're in for a full treatment plan, and basically we refer them out to see a periodontist because this is quite a severe case, and they decline the referral. They want to get it done in-house. So I explained to the patient the risks of getting a clean are your teeth are grade 3 mobile, very wobbly, and there's a very high chance that if we do a clean and we remove this calculus, there's a good chance that your tooth may come out. And of course that just goes into patient management. I had a very strong feeling that that was going to happen. Spoke with the patient about it, they wanted to move ahead, and it did happen. This particular patient, that was the tooth that was really bad. They had other teeth that were okay. I ended up getting a bridge there to close the gap. It worked out okay. Something that is surprisingly common is patients super gluing their crowns or their veneers. We have a lot of patients that will go overseas to Indonesia or Thailand to get their dental work done because they can get it done at a fraction of the price. That's a whole other thing, but I would see patients coming back from these countries and they'd be like, oh, I just spent $5,000 and got my whole upper arch crowned. Those prices just aren't reasonable in a country, for example, like Australia, because our in-house costs are so high. I've seen patients that have had their wrong tooth root canals, that have had their wrong tooth pulled out. We have seen some insane things. So my only advice for you guys is, if you are going to go on any type of medical holiday, if you think a deal is too good to be true, please look into it. And don't just talk to one friend who had a good experience. You need to really be in depth, because this is your health that you're talking about. And this one actually happened to me. It's actually really funny. I was getting a clean. I was about 11 years old, and I was just laying there. My dad was doing the clean, and I closed my mouth and I felt something poke, and he had done these 2 vampire fangs on my canines. There actually is composite resin that you can do that with that doesn't damage the teeth. You're not shaving away your tooth or anything. It was just a joke. It was kind of funny to look in the mirror and have vampire fangs. Don't forget to floss, and if you like this type of video from me, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video.